Bulldog Blitz. I'm Trish Barton. Concussions resulting from sports injuries are a hazard for all athletes. The diagnosis and treatment for concussions is something that the Butler athletic training staff has had to deal with. Today, Butler athletic trainer Ryan Galloy joins me to talk about concussions, and Butler football player Matt Jensen will talk specifically about what it is like to suffer from a concussion and how he is moving forward. Thanks to the both of you for being on the show.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan, how exactly do you define concussions, and where do you get this source from?
Well, we define concussions as, to be simple, anything more than a headache when you've been hit in the head, or whether it's by falling or getting hit by another players. So anything other than a headache, where you're talking about neurological signs such as losing memory. Sometimes people do get knocked out, but ringing in the ears, you can get nauseous, sometimes you get sick, vomit, balance problems, things like that. It can run the gamut. It really depends on the athlete. But anything where you're talking about, I got hit in the head and I've got more than a headache, right? I start having some issues with my neurologic function.
Yeah. And can concussions be caused by just getting hit in the head, or is there any other way you can get caught concussion caused?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the typical way is getting a direct blow to the head, but what we see sometimes is somebody just, especially in football, gets hit sometimes in the chin, or just gets hit violently where they're going one way and somebody hits them when they're going the other. And what happens is the brain sits in this almost like a bowl full of jelly, is kind of the analogy I use a lot. So it's moving back and forth, and you don't have to get hit in the head. You just have to, almost like a whiplash kind of thing, where that's going to cause that brain to move back and forth, and then it can cause a concussion.
Okay. And Matt, what happened to you?
Last season during our game against Dayton, I kind of got hit in the head in one of the very first plays of the game. And then what actually led me to have the concussion was after a play I dove for a ball and ended up hitting my head on the turf pretty hard. So.
And how did it feel?
It was definitely an interesting experience. At first I had like a feeling of shocked and scared, because it was something that I've never experienced before. I had a symptom of the ringing in the ears, and what scared me even more than anything was I couldn't remember how I got onto the field. I couldn't remember putting on my pads. I couldn't remember what I had to eat in that morning. I remembered, things that I did the night before, and things, my classes and everything, my schedule that I had, but I couldn't remember things that I had done just previous.
And is this a typical case, or is this a severe case?
There really is no typical case, really, when you're talking about concussions. And in the last couple of years, as more and more research has been done, and kind of the grading system has changed, now we really just call something a concussion is a concussion is a concussion. We used to say grade 1 through, there were so many different ways of classifying concussions, is that there really is no typical, because we've seen people have symptoms such as Matt's and come back relatively quick, matter of a few days. We've had people with less symptoms than Matt's and be out several weeks. It's really very individually based, which is what makes it difficult to deal with if you're a student athlete, and it's also difficult if you're a physician and athletic trainer to try to do what's best for these kids, because everybody wants to get back as quickly as possible. But that's what the frustrating thing is for all involved, is that it can be so different, even one concussion to the next for the same person. So it's tough to say what's typical. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, when you have that many symptoms of memory loss, that's a pretty substantial deal, and that was obviously a reason why we diagnosed him as such and kept him out. And so, I mean, it's significant nonetheless.
Yeah. And at Butler, do the Butler football players have to start with a baseline, or is there any standardized testing?
Yes, all of our student athletes get a baseline impact test. Impact is immediate post-assessment of concussion testing. However, that was what it was originally entitled, and they've kept that impact. Obviously it's a good name to market, but when they come in for their physicals as freshmen, everyone gets a baseline test, and then that obviously allows us, and that measures their neurological cognitive function, and that allows us to compare when they've had a concussion to their baseline in the recovery process.
Okay. And then, Matt, how were you diagnosed? With concussion?
I was diagnosed by the trainers, the athletic trainer, and the team doctor that was there at the game. I remember kind of coming to on the training table that's out there, and basically the doctor looked at me and said, "Well, do you know where you are?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm at a football game." And
Oh, wow.
he asked me a couple of questions and a couple of words to remember, and then he came by about 5 minutes later to ask me these same questions and what were the same words that he had given me, and I could not even remember what words they were. And so that's pretty typical way that they diagnose a concussion.
Okay. And then, what was your treatment after you were diagnosed?
Basically, I had to sit out a couple of days. I sat out for about a week and a half from any type of contact, including weightlifting and outside training of that sort. Basically, the best way to heal a concussion is just time, is what I was told. It's just to let your brain rest. I was told that if I was feeling a little sluggish in class, I should definitely let my teachers know. I let them know that I had experienced a concussion, and thankfully I had no impact in my academic life. So.
Okay. Well, and Ryan, is this normal, the standard procedure, and is this how Butler deals with people that have concussions?
Yeah, we're affiliated with St. Vincent Sports Performance, so the team doctor that Matt mentioned was Dr. Joel Carey, and he's our primary care team physician, and we work with them on developing our concussion return to play protocol, and we really took kind of their guidelines, which is more along the lines of, they work with a lot of high school athletes and younger, and we kind of devised our, and every school really has their own return to play, but we know that Matt's right, the best and first thing that we do is rest the student athlete until they're symptom free.
Yeah.
And there's no set guideline as far as how long that can take, but then after that, we keep our football players out once they're symptom free, which could be a day, a week, months. After that, then we start to progress. I mean, it's typically a few days over the course of about 6 weeks. So really, for the most part, most of our football players, if they get hurt on game day, and they know this, if they get hurt on a Saturday game, the chances of them playing the previous Saturday is pretty slim. They really have to be symptom-free really by the time they wake up Sunday. Otherwise, we know we're going to keep them out that next game. And then once they're symptom-free, we have an exertional progression that we put them through. Start with light biking, jogging, progress from there up to a contact practice.
Okay. And did you do some of these activities?
Yeah, I went through the whole process, the whole step that Galoy, Mr. Galoy, Trainer Galoy, explained right there. I went through that whole process of no contact every day. I came into the training room, talked to them. They asked me a couple questions on how I was feeling, if I had any symptoms, if I had a headache or not, or if I was nauseous at all. And pretty much when I got the okay by them, I retook the impact test. And you have to either get an equivalent or I believe higher than what you had at your baseline. And after that, then they just ease you in through bike and jogging and eventually into practice. So.
And did this affect your playing at all or schoolwork? Or?
Thankfully, no, it did not affect my schoolwork. Playing, no, it really didn't affect me so much. Just like any other injury, you have to fight to get back in, definitely, and to keep going. So, yeah.
And is this the same? So they do this for mostly every athlete that has
Yes.
concussions? And what if they are having trouble in schoolwork?
Well, we for every football player, our return, we do have different amounts of days based on the risk for re-injury. We're gonna progress the kid back quicker in baseball as opposed to football, and we've got a whole policy based on the sports. Football is the one we keep the kids out the most amount of days once they're symptom free. But if they have trouble, if in step 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and they say we've got, like Matt said, we're checking them every day, and during this exertional, at one point we have him jogging around the field doing sprints. If he says, hey, I'm having a headache, or I don't feel right, I'm having some trouble with my vision, I'm getting sick, we stop and then we rest him again until those symptoms go away. And sometimes if it's been longer, we'll keep them symptom free for more than a day.
And have you had any players that have had long-term concussions where they have to sit out or retire from their sport?
Off the top of my head, no pun intended, but I don't believe, since I've been here at Butler, and this is since '04.
Okay.
I've been the head since '07, but I don't believe we've had anybody we've had to tell them not to play anymore. We've come close. We have had we had a player decide not to play anymore, and we didn't, that was kind of up. It was getting to the point where it was, if another one happened, we would have told them to quit. It was a football player, but we've had some kids be out several weeks, sometimes with a concussion.
And Matt, how do you feel like your concussion will affect you for this coming season?
It's something that's always there in the back of your mind, that, I got a concussion, and what happens if I get another one, because it's something that you've experienced. As far as affecting me, no, I don't think it will, because it's something that's going to try to limit me. But me being an athlete, I'm going to try to surpass that and definitely overcome it. And it's hard to lose that fear of getting a concussion.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you suppose, like, for students that do get concussions, when they're in season, are they supposed to do you want them to stop if they have a really bad concussion, or?
Yeah, I mean, we instruct them whether, most of our sports, such as football, we're there right on the spot, and so we'll see them. So we're in charge of their care, and we want them. We stress the importance with each athlete and their teammates. Hey, if you see a teammate who's not doing well, make sure that you let us know that they might have a concussion. If we have some of the sports that aren't in season, that maybe we're not there at their practices, that's when we, again, same thing, and especially the coaches, we educate the coaches on what to look for, at least to say, hey, you probably ought to go see one of the athletic trainers. So, whether or not they may or may not have one, we want them to err on the conservative side and come see us. And our coaches are great about that in all our sports, because it's one of the great things about being at Butler. We've got coaches that do care about the kids long term. So.
And Ryan and Matt, thanks for joining me today. That wraps up segment 1 of today's Blitz. The Hinkle Fieldhouse renovation project will be the next topic on our next segment with your host, Whitney Simmons. I'm Trish Barton.
Welcome back to the second segment of the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Whitney Simmons. The sounds of power tools and construction work have become very common around Hinkle Fieldhouse. The historic building is continuing to undergo a multi-million-dollar renovation. Here today to talk to us about the details of that renovation is Butler University Associate Athletic Director Mike Freeman. So what does restoring Hinkle mean to you personally?
Oh gosh, it's it's a wonderful building. I personally, I've been at Butler now for 7 years, and it's the one thing I knew about Indiana growing up in Illinois, having watched Hoosiers, and then having gotten to know Butler University through being a big-time college sports fan as I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, and to be here now during a wonderful time of growth for Butler University, both the university in general, but the athletic department and where we're going and what we're trying to accomplish now, and how Hinkle Fieldhouse is it's a keystone part of that. It's where all of our teams go through every single day. It's where all of our locker rooms are. It's where almost all of our coaches are housed. It's the competition venue for 3 of our teams. It's just, it's a wonderful place that I feel lucky enough to go to work at every single day. And to make it last for more than the 85 years that it's been upright and standing is something really, really unique that we're all going to be a part of.
And so what is your role in the campaign for Hinkle? Do you work like behind the scenes mainly? Are you working with campaigns, or?
It's a little bit of both. We have an administrative staff that has been working on this for quite a while. I mean, I can remember being in meetings about Hinkle and what it's going to be and where we're going to go back in April or March of 2010, before we were going out to the NCAA tournament when we went to the first Final Four. So we've been looking at it and studying it and trying to figure out where things need to go, what things are the most important to do to maintain the building, both with mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and then also the student-athlete enhancement features, better weight room, better athletic training room, an academic center, better locker rooms, all those types of things. So the nuts and bolts behind the scenes and how we're what it's actually going to look like, been a part of that now, going on close to 3 years. And then during that same time, we've been raising money, and we've been trying to bring in as many dollars so that we can fund the vision. So both with the project, which is the bricks and mortar and what we're trying to do, the plans, and the campaign, I've been a part of it, and a lot of people in our department have been a part of it. Bill Lynch, who was here for 2 years as our development associate AD for development, has been big in bringing in some of the funds. Another associate AD who left to be an AD at Niagara back in November, Tom Crowley, he was very, very big into the project, and now Beth Getz, one of our associate ADs, has been a big part of it as well. And then, of course, our athletic director, Barry Collier's been spearheading the whole thing. So we've got a lot of people working on it, really every single day.
Now, you said that the idea came about in March of 2010. Was there like processes leading up to it, or was it you just kind of?
Absolutely. There was, that was when we really started to look at, okay, here's our footprint. Here's what space we have. Here's the different square footages of this office, of that locker room, of this, of that. And then then over the last few years, it keeps on, adjusting and changing for what's going to be the best long term for Butler at Hinkle. But really, I think over the last 85 years, there's always been adjustments to the building. When they built Hinkle in 1928 and opened to the public, the first few years the court went the other way. They realized, this doesn't really work. The sun comes through and you can't really see anything when you're playing a basketball game, so they moved it. We put in the weight room in 1995. In 1989, put in the chair back seats in the lower level. Redid the sound system, 4 years ago. We've done things over the whole life of the building. It's just that now when you look at it, it's structurally sound and it's going to stand for years to come. But the competitive nature of college athletics, we need to make some upgrades. So that's why there's going to be a bigger investment, a bigger project now than any of the previous ones over the last 85 years.
So can you give us kind of an inside scoop of what is all going on at Hinkle versus I know the exterior is being redone, but what's the interior entail? Right.
Right now, the exterior we'd been working on for about a year, and that, it looks great. It doesn't look much different than before, but when you look at it now, you can see some differences in the windows. The windows are a little bit different from the outside, and those are going to be much better for years to come, and it's just going to be a lot better from the exterior. On the interior, like I mentioned, our weight room, not big enough for 350 student athletes. Our athletic training room is not big enough for 350 student athletes. And we really don't have an academic success center. We have an academic coordinator, Sonia Hopkins, who everyone knows and loves in our building. She's the best. And she has an office, and that's it. When we do study tables or when we work with students or different things, we don't really have a place that's home. So to have that is a big will be a kind of a game changer. It'll be really, really good from a recruiting standpoint, and then for the student athlete experience when they're here. You know, we have 2 cold tubs right now. You know, in August, when it's really hot out, we've got other cold tubs that are outside the building, but we're going to have much bigger cold tubs, and you know, for student athlete wellness, those are going to be a lot better. And then the weight rooms or the locker rooms are going to be adjusted so that we can, you know, better fit the needs of what the teams really need now. Hinkle in and of itself, we had 4 locker rooms in 1928, and now we've added on and put all these different locker rooms in different spots, and we need to go back in and change the whole structure of how it's laid out. Otherwise, you know, it won't work for that much longer.
And so you said with the student services and all the things you're adding in, are you planning on the side by HRC, are you planning on adding more levels to Hinkle, or are you?
No, we're not going to be adding any more levels. What we have on the west side of Hinkle is what used to be called the West Gym is now called the Ephraimson Family Gym, where there's 2 full-length basketball courts, and it's used for kinesiology classes, it's used for practices, it's used for intramurals. That stays. But just north of that is the natatorium, the pool that was installed when Hinkle Fieldhouse was installed back in 1928. But about 10 years ago, we shut it down, and it hasn't been used. And right now, it's a large storage space for us. We basically just store a lot of things in there. But there's a basement level, a main level, and then we'll create an additional second level in that pool area. 6,000 square feet on all 3 levels gives us 18,000 more square feet to use. So that's where a lot of the offices will go. That's where the athletic training area will go. That's where the academic success center and the weight room. So all those get moved into this new space, which is new to us, but it's always been there. You've already got 4 walls there. You've already got everything. You just got to demo it and create this new usable space. And then that'll give us opportunity within, you know, what most people think of Hinkle Fieldhouse, the 4 concourses all the way around, where we have offices, you know, everywhere. There's a door everywhere. A lot of that'll be opened up so that we have more space for fans to move around and interact, and it'll end up being really great.
And so when does the interior renovation start? Have you started to lay the groundwork on it,
No,
or is it?
We haven't started with really anything interior yet. We're still trying to finish up the outside of the building. You know, they worked on the west side of Hinkle, the south side, which is the main side that everyone sees, and then the east side by the Butler Bowl. And now they're on the back, and they have to do that without scaffolding, with a crane and with a picker lift, and so that's you know, it's tougher in the wintertime, so they're getting it done, and it'll probably be done in April. And then at that point over the summer was when hopefully we'll come inside and start to demo that pool area, because you're going to have to start there to move things in there before you actually move people out of the spaces that they're already in. So hopefully that can get started in spring and summertime, and we can, you know, keep moving on the project.
And how long is the projected project to last?
To do everything that needs to be done, if it's all done at one time, it would be, I believe, about 20 months. So, you know, if you shut the entire building down and you just did everything, it would probably be shorter. But we want to make sure that, you know, every year is someone's senior year. So we don't want to completely shut down the building. We just can't do that. This has been done at, you know, Mackey Arena up at Purdue when they redid their facility, and you know, most teams were under, you know, limited discomfort in terms of having to move to a different office or move to a different locker room, and we're gonna do the same thing so that we can continue to have basketball, volleyball season, you know, going on in Hinkle Fieldhouse while construction and while renovation is being done.
And so now touching on the cost of the renovations, it's estimated to be about $25 million, and of the $16 million raised, it's from public donations or people raising money. How is that number like brought up about, and like?
Well,
what do you
it's you know, you look at it over the last 3 years, and there's a lot of different things that we want to do with the facility. There's a lot of things that we could easily, increase that number and do a lot more. But where's the money going to come from? So I think it's just been a lot of discussion over the last 2 years about what we can raise through public funding, what we can raise through revenue in the department to make sure that we have the money to get done everything that we have in the project. We can't bite off more than we can actually chew. There's a few different things that it'd be great if it was included, but it's not going to be included, and we're going to make the best of everything that we're going to be able to put into it because it's going to be so much better than it is right now.
And so what sort of public fundraising have you guys done? I know you've done the text, and then you did a little the piggy bank around campus.
Yeah, there's some of those things have caught people's eye, and the text to give, text Hinkle to 32333 is a $10 gift. And then the piggy banks, we've gotten quite a few of those filled up, and it's a neat community spirit type thing to bring in some funding. A big mailing just hit that went out to pretty much everyone that Butler has an address for. Any any alum, former student athlete that may have an interest. So those gifts are starting to come in just through that direct mail piece. But really, before we went public in November was during the leadership phase, and at that point we had raised about $12 million, just going out and meeting with as many different people as possible that we thought had an interest in, keeping Hinkle at the forefront and making it a wonderful facility. A lot of people have stepped up, and we're still getting more now. Just folks that we're meeting with and trying to grind it out and get as many people to help out as possible.
Now, in your 7 years at Butler, do you have a fond memory being at Hinkle? Is there one thing you remember the most?
Boy, oh boy. The best Hinkle memory would probably be, I'd probably have to say 3 weeks ago for game day. I mean, that was when college game day came to town. That's kind of a culmination that, it's a hallmark moment, a bucket list moment where ESPN says, you're at this level, we're coming to town, we're going to do a game. And then the way that the game worked out was wonderful. I'd say that was wonderful. But there's a lot of good memories, men's and women's basketball games, volleyball matches. There's been a lot of unique things that have happened at Hinkle. The celebrations after the Final Four runs, when the team came back and got off the bus at 3 a.m. and we had 3,000 people out there waiting for us. So just all kinds of unique things that have happened in that building in 6, 7 years, let alone the 85 years. A lot of people can tell a lot of different stories about Hinkle, and if we can keep it up and do everything that we're trying to do with the campaign, I think we'll make even more memories over the next 10 to 20 years. So.
That is all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us, Mike. In our third segment of the Bulldog Blitz, JoJo Gentry and Ryan Henson will have stories about other Butler teams and athletes. I'm Whitney Simmons, and you are watching the Bulldog Blitz.
A newcomer on Butler women's basketball team is helping keep the Lady Bulldogs in the upper half of the conference standings. I'm Ryan Henson.
And I'm JoJo Gentry. Don't be surprised if you think you are seeing double when watching the Butler women's swimming team. A pair of freshmen may have Butler opponents doing just that. We will have those stories and more on this segment of the Bulldog Blitz.
Darius McClung is a junior transfer who is making a big impact on the Butler women's basketball team. Marissa Johnson says McClung is from Indianapolis and is glad to be back in her hometown.
Darius McClung is a star, plain and simple. In her first season with the Bulldogs, she ranks in the top 10 in 8 categories in the Atlantic 10 Conference, and she leads her team on both ends of the court. Coach Beth Kuchar doesn't deny McClung is the team's best player right now, one of many reasons she is a team captain.
Definitely a leader, and she's a true leader by example. I mean, you can see in her eyes that she wants to win. You can see in her eyes that she works hard. It amazes me every day.
She texts McClung at least every other week just to tell her she is glad she's here. And McClung says she's happy to be here too. She says she loves her team, but her biggest support system continues to be her family.
And just to have that support from my mom and dad and my brother who's a coach now, and they just make you want to be a good person. And just having my family around me my whole life and having them, that's all you need.
McClung's parents are her biggest fans and go to every game. They even went to her games at Cincinnati while she was injured and couldn't play.
We just believe in supporting our children, and it's good that the children know that their parents are behind them in everything that they do, and we just feel that that's part of the love that we have for her.
McClung's mom says Darius has been playing since she was 4 years old. McClung has other dreams, though, like becoming a dentist. But she says basketball is more than just a game.
You're walking around the world day to day, you're being girly and feminine and happy, and then you get this chance to just go out and be rugged and competitive and tough. And I love that about the game of basketball. It just teaches you so much about life.
McClung has many options for her future, all of which look bright. But for now, she'll just continue to lead her team to victory. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Marissa Johnson.
The Butler women's swimming season is coming to a close later this month with the conference championships. This year's squad has a sister combination which has opponents looking twice. The Butler women's swimming team is preparing for the Atlantic 10 championships next week. This will be the Bulldogs' first time competing in the A10. It will also be a first-time A10 appearance for freshman identical twin swimmers Sarah and Abby Gibbons. Although Sarah and Abby are identical, they swim different events. The Gibbons twins say they are able to finish each other's sentences, but not each other's races. Sarah swims distance freestyle, and Abby swims sprint freestyle and backstroke. Assistant coach
They work really well together. I think they complement each other, and they definitely feed off each other's strengths, and they know each other's weaknesses, and you can definitely see both of them helping each other through those areas.
I always feel like she motivates me more, but I think we have that competitiveness, but we both want to push each other. So I count her races, and it's always nice having your sister count for you. I don't know, I always feel more encouraged when it's coming from Sarah. Before her race, she'll be like, "Come on, Abby, you got this," and I'll do the same for her.
Sarah and Abby don't interact often during practices or workouts due to the individual events they swim, but the pair still make sure they know how they need to improve in order to be successful in the A10.
I think I can improve by focusing on my turns and my head position and certain stroke work. Probably the same thing. Our coaches always yell at us to focus more. I'm always a little spacey, so I really want to work on my focus before my races.
For the Butler Blitz, I'm JoJo Gentry.
Although the weather is still chilly, the Butler baseball team is preparing for its first competition in the Atlantic 10 Conference. Colin Likas has more on how the Bulldogs are readying themselves for that and a long road trip that lies ahead.
It may be dreary and cold. The wind may be whipping, or the sun may be shining brightly. No matter the conditions, Butler's baseball team is outdoors, working hard to improve on last season's sub-500 record. Assistant coach Brian Hiscox says the team is going about its typical preseason routine while prepping for its first games.
Just taking it day by time, kind of evaluating every day, trying to get the best lineup together we can get.
The Bulldogs are utilizing their own field as well as the Butler Bowl for practices. Under the direction of head coach Steve Farley, the squad takes batting, fielding, and base running practice. This will be Farley's 22nd season with Butler. However, senior pitcher Kyle Cramp says the longtime coach is still creating new training methods.
Coach Farley has this one big thing he's working on this year is visualization and mentality, and during practices he'll stop practice and have us do mental training exercises, so I think he's doing a really good job.
This work is all being done in anticipation of the team's first season in the Atlantic 10 Conference. Cramp says he feels the Bulldogs have what it takes to succeed in a new league.
Well, I think our team goal right now is to not only make it to the conference tournament, be one of the top 7, but to win it, and I think we definitely have a chance if a lot of guys step up.
Before A10 action begins, Butler will head south to avoid the elements they've been forced to practice in at home. Hiscox says the team is geared up to finally face competition from outside Indianapolis.
Usually we do some fall scrimmages. This year we didn't do it, so we've been playing against ourselves for a while. It'll be nice to see somebody else in another jersey.
The Bulldogs will face Georgia State 3 times starting Friday. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Colin Likas.
Jimmy Reese is one of this year's star players on Butler's baseball team. I talked to Reese and his teammates to find out more about this transfer player. The southpaw transfer from Highland Park, Illinois is one of the most recognizable players on the baseball team. But off the field, many people are wondering, who is number 25?
Junior Reese is our first baseman. He's our 4-hole hitter, so it's obviously a very important part of our lineup.
Last season, Reese was named the 2012 Newcomer of the Year, named second-team All-Conference, and led the league in home runs. Despite having all of these accolades, Reese is more than a big bat in the lineup.
Jimmy's one of the hardest workers we have. He does a lot of things where he's, one of the first guys here, one of the last guys to leave, always trying to better himself, hitting the ball, and he does lead well by example. He's kind of the silent guy on the team, but this year he's taken more of a vocal leadership role.
Reese is notorious for getting the team together after hours on Sundays for extra batting practice, says Calderon. He is always open to giving advice to younger players. He understands that it is not about the individual, but about the team. Reese performs at a high level on and off the field. Last year, the history major was named to the athletic director's honor roll. Butler is the first baseman's third school. He began his career at Kansas State and then played at a junior college for 2 years. Reese says the team is like his family, but he hopes Butler is not his last stop.
Playing professional baseball has been a goal of mine since I was a kid, and having the opportunity to play Division I baseball was also one of my dreams, and I accomplished that. So coming on here on a Sunday morning is some of the sacrifices you have to make in order to prepare yourself for the season and get better, and hopefully somebody gives me the shot to play professional baseball.
The first baseman is looking forward to the season opener on February 15th at Georgia State.
Soccer season is over, but Butler men's soccer team is already getting ready for the next season. Scott Smelzer reports.
The Butler men's soccer team is back hard at work on the Butler Bowl this winter with off-season workouts, led by rising redshirt senior goalkeeper John Dawson. Dawson, an Indianapolis native, is entering his 5th year with the program and his 3rd at starting goalkeeper. He has seen a coaching staff change and multiple teammates leave for other schools, but he believes this is the year to put all of that behind them.
A lot of things have changed, and we've handled them, different ways and stuff like that. But I think really this year is our year to really finally put things together. I think this is the year that we really make a change for the better. Today in training it was super intense. We've really made a change in the culture in the locker room, and that's really transitioned onto the field.
Dawson isn't the only senior on the team who sees the value of off-season workouts going into a more competitive season this fall.
Coming off of last season, we were all a little disappointed with the results, and one of the things that we can focus on is making sure we work a lot harder on our individual fitness and just getting in technical things with the ball, and a lot of that.
After barely missing out on their conference tournament the last 2 seasons, the Bulldogs aren't taking any time to rest. With morning workouts every morning, Monday to Friday, the Dogs, along with Dawson, are setting their goals high.
We want to make the A-10 tournament. We want to make a run in the NCAAs. We really just want to show that we're here to play, and we're not just here to compete. We had 5 ties last season. That's a lot of ties. One goal here or there could really have made our season a lot different. And then personally, I'd really like to keep my goals against average below 1. That's always been a personal goal of mine every year. As well as I'd really like to get some hardware for the team, not just necessarily for myself. So.
Dawson, also known as the Shark, has stepped up this year as a leader, and it isn't going unnoticed by his classmate Oldham.
It's really great seeing a lot of the guys who are now seniors take a leadership role in the team. Dawson's been a big part of that. He's really stepped up and helping everybody push themselves a lot harder, and we can see him working a lot harder as well.
The meaning behind Dawson's nickname is much more than the animal hanging on the wall in his bedroom. It comes from something he read when playing Division I soccer wasn't so glorious.
I came to myself one day, sophomore year. I started reading this blog called Club Trill. It's written by Mark Titus. The blog really is called The View from the End of the Bench. And he really just talks about the life of sitting on the bench and how I like to see the lighter things of it. In my sophomore year, I actually sat the bench. I was pretty frustrated. It was not what I wanted to be doing. But sometimes things happen that you can't control. So I started reading this blog just coincidentally, and it really helped me, really understand that sometimes when you sit on the bench, just because you're not playing, you still can't help the team.
Dawson, among other seniors, hopes as a leader to a young team that they can learn from him just like he was learning when he had to wait his turn. The commitment from these Bulldogs in the cold winter will surely pay off this upcoming fall. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Scott Smelzer.
That is it for this week's edition of the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Ryan Henson.
And I'm JoJo Gentry. Have a great week, Bulldog fans.